Greenland. To many, it's just a remote island covered in ice and snow, but look closely, this seemingly barren land is actually the key to protecting the future of the United States. Imagine standing at the North Pole and gazing down at the world below. What you see is more than just a collection of countries and borders. You see power, strategy, and a critical point of defense. Greenland sits at the very center of this strategic web, guarding access to the Arctic. It's not just geography, it's national security. President Donald Trump was right when he pointed out the importance of Greenland for U.S. defense. In his own words, it's about more than just land. It's about the Golden Dome, the missile shield that keeps America safe from adversaries like Russia and China. But there's a twist. What if the very place that holds the key to this security starts slipping out of American influence? What happens when Greenland, instead of being a bulwark against enemy missiles, becomes a new arena for global superpowers to fight over? Let's take a closer look at why Greenland's role in U.S. defense matters more than ever and what the future could hold. Stay with me as we explore why Greenland's strategic importance could shape the future of global security. Let's set the scene. Greenland isn't just an isolated piece of ice. It's the gateway to the Arctic, a region that's becoming more critical by the day. From Greenland's eastern coast, you can trace a line directly to the Greenland-Iceland-United Kingdom gap, a key point where Russian nuclear submarines could enter the Atlantic, potentially threatening the U.S. and its allies. If this passage is blocked or contested, it opens the door to dangerous possibilities. This is why Greenland has become a geopolitical flashpoint. Russia and China are eyeing the region, pushing for influence and military advantage. The U.S. has always known this, which is why Greenland has remained vital to America's defensive architecture. But now, with growing tensions, that reliance is more apparent than ever. The reality is Greenland's sovereignty is more than a diplomatic issue. It's a matter of national security. Without control over this strategic outpost, the U.S. could find itself vulnerable, exposed to missile threats that it can't track or intercept in time. The question isn't just whether Greenland stays with Denmark, it's whether the U.S. can continue to rely on it to safeguard its borders. To understand why Greenland is so crucial today, we need to look back at its history. During the Cold War, the U.S. recognized early on that Greenland wasn't just an island, it was a military asset. The U.S. built a series of radar sites there, part of an early warning system designed to detect Soviet bombers and missiles. These sites have evolved, and now they're the heart of America's missile defense system. In a time when the world was split into two ideological blocs, Greenland was America's eyes in the Arctic, watching for threats from Russia. But this strategic importance didn't stop with the Cold War. As tensions between Russia and the U.S. began to escalate once more, especially after the annexation of Crimea and Russia's increasing military presence in the Arctic, the value of Greenland became undeniable. Greenland also plays a central role in the Arctic's melting ice. As climate change opens up new shipping routes, the region is poised to become a major economic and military hub. But Russia, with its own expanding Arctic fleet, has already begun asserting control over territorial waters that are critical to U.S. interests. This is why, for decades, Greenland's position as an American ally has been non-negotiable. It isn't just about the land, it's about strategic power, the ability to track missiles, control access to the Polar Silk Road, and project strength over a region that could determine the future of global conflict. In 2017, a quiet diplomatic shift set off alarm bells in Washington. Greenland's prime minister, in a move that many saw as a gamble, flew to Beijing to discuss China's investment in Greenland's infrastructure, particularly new airports. The idea to bring in Chinese financing to help develop the island. On the surface, it sounded like an economic opportunity, but for the U.S. it was a potential strategic nightmare. China's growing interest in the Arctic has been well documented, and it's no secret that Beijing views the region as a key part of its Polar Silk Road. If China were to gain influence in Greenland, It would give them direct access to military early warning radar systems and, far more dangerous, control over shipping routes and military bases that are vital for U.S. defense. In response, Denmark, which holds sovereignty over Greenland, stepped in and blocked the deal. The message was clear: Greenland is a part of the Western defense structure, and any efforts to align with China would not be tolerated. This moment raised the stakes for the future of Greenland's sovereignty. If Greenland were to move closer to China, it would not just change its economic landscape, it could alter the entire balance of power in the Arctic and, by extension, global security. The U.S. would have no choice but to take action. As the world watches, Greenland's future is inextricably linked to the U.S. and its allies. The question is, will it remain a beacon of American influence, or will it become a new flashpoint in the great power competition? The true value of Greenland isn't just in its location, it's in the military infrastructure that exists there, largely unseen by the public. U.S. Space Force Guardians operate the early warning radar systems that detect missile launches from adversaries like Russia and China. These radars, housed at Pituffik Space Base in Greenland, are the first line of defense against nuclear missile threats targeting the U.S. and its allies. It's not just about watching for missile threats, though. The U.S. also relies on Greenland's vast remote expanse to monitor space traffic, tracking satellites including China's growing constellation of over 1,300 satellites. The military relies on Greenland's radar system to provide real-time tracking and command and control for these objects, which can make or break global defense operations. Without these systems, the U.S. would be blind to missile launches and space threats. Greenland also hosts key infrastructure that aids in strategic airlift operations, providing the U.S. with direct access to the Arctic for rapid military deployment if needed. The idea of losing access to Pituffik, the earliest missile warning site in the world, would leave the U.S. vulnerable to surprise strikes, with far fewer means to counteract them. The growing presence of China in the Arctic is one of the most significant challenges to U.S. dominance in the region. In 2024, China sent not just one, but 3 icebreakers to the Arctic, a show of force that was hard to ignore. But it didn't stop there. In the summer of 2024, a Chinese research submarine ventured under the Arctic ice, signaling China's intent to establish a permanent presence in the region. The message was clear: China was moving beyond economic ambitions and stepping into the military realm. In 2025, China made a bold move by sending a container ship through the Arctic, part of its Polar Silk Road initiative, further cementing its foothold in the region. And that's not all. China's new nuclear-powered submarine is designed to operate in icy waters, its hull reinforced to withstand the harsh conditions of the Arctic. This could dramatically alter the balance of power in the region. Chinese submarines in the Arctic would place U.S. military bases, satellites, and data centers in range of potential attack. The question now isn't whether China will continue its Arctic expansion, but how quickly it will escalate its efforts. If the U.S. isn't careful, the Arctic could become a new theater of conflict, one where Greenland and its strategic position are vital to preventing further Chinese incursions. While the high-stakes drama of international politics and military strategy plays out, there's a much more personal side to the story. Greenland's people, the Inuit communities and others who call this harsh land home, are living at the crossroads of 2 competing superpowers. For them, the stakes are immense. They face the reality of living on a land that holds the key to global security, but also one that has become a bargaining chip in a much larger geopolitical struggle. Imagine the daily tension of knowing that the very land beneath your feet is being eyed by global powers, not just for its resources, but for its military significance. The local economy, traditionally built around fishing and hunting, is being increasingly influenced by external investments. The pressures of Chinese interests, combined with the push from the U.S., mean that Greenland's sovereignty could be at risk. But the implications go even deeper. For Denmark, which has long held responsibility for Greenland's defense and political standing, the issue is equally fraught. Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen faces a delicate balancing act: protect Greenland's autonomy while satisfying the security demands of both the US and NATO. As elections loom in Denmark in the fall, handling the Greenland situation could be a defining moment of her political career. For the people of Greenland, the threat of losing control over their homeland, whether to China or an overbearing ally, could dramatically change their future. They stand at the precipice of a decision that will shape their political and economic landscape for generations. The stakes for the people of Greenland couldn't be higher. As global powers scramble for influence, the question remains: will the people of Greenland keep their sovereignty, or will they become pawns in a much larger game? The implications of Greenland's future reach far beyond its icy shores. The US isn't alone in watching this unfolding drama. NATO, with its many member countries, is deeply concerned. The Arctic is becoming more than just a point of military strategy. It's a geopolitical hotspot that's influencing global security. Countries across the alliance are beginning to understand that the High North could be the next battleground, one where controlling Greenland is crucial for strategic dominance. For instance, Britain has already stepped up its commitment to Arctic security. In January 2024, Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper announced that Britain was increasing its focus on military training and joint operations with Norway, preparing for potential conflicts in the Arctic. Meanwhile, other NATO countries are boosting investments in anti-submarine warfare, icebreakers, and missile defense systems, all in preparation for a region that could become the center of a new global confrontation. The Arctic is becoming a new theater of competition, and the control of Greenland is a key to shaping this future. Russia's military presence in the region has already made it clear that global security is being redefined here. If China gains a stronger foothold in Greenland, it could alter the balance, with devastating consequences not only for NATO but for the broader global order. The future of Greenland is uncertain, and with it the future of Arctic geopolitics. But one thing is clear: this remote island is poised to play a decisive role in global security. Let's imagine three potential paths for the coming years: good, average, and bad outcomes. Scenario 1. The best outcome. In this scenario, Greenland remains firmly within the US-aligned orbit. Denmark strengthens its sovereignty over Greenland, and the US maintains its vital military presence on the island. With NATO standing united, the Arctic becomes a region of cooperative defense. China's ambitions are contained, and the Greenland-Iceland-United Kingdom GIU key gap remains a critical part of the Western defense strategy. The US continues to develop space and missile defense systems, ensuring the Arctic stays peaceful and free from external threats. Scenario 2, the middle ground. In this more likely scenario, Greenland's position remains neutral, caught between the pressures of China and the US. Greenland's leadership might try to maintain sovereignty, but the island becomes a bargaining chip in global politics. China's influence could grow, though the island remains under Danish protection. The US keeps its radar sights, but geopolitical tensions rise. The Arctic becomes an ongoing zone of rivalry, where the US and NATO fight to maintain their hold, while Russia and China steadily increase their influence. Scenario 3. The worst outcome. In the worst-case scenario, Greenland's sovereignty is compromised, either through political maneuvering or economic pressure. Greenland could fall into the hands of China or shift its allegiance away from the West. US military bases could be forced to withdraw, and China could use the Arctic as a launching point for its own strategic operations. NATO would be left scrambling as the Arctic becomes a new flashpoint of military conflict between the West and China, with Russia taking full advantage of the region's uncharted waters. The security architecture that the US has relied on for decades would be shattered, leaving the world vulnerable to sudden attacks. The fate of Greenland is far more than a geopolitical issue. It's a matter of national security, a struggle for the future of the Arctic, and a critical piece of a global puzzle that could shape the next era of superpower relations. As Russia and China press their influence, the choices made today will resonate for decades to come. Will Greenland remain the front line for U.S. defense, or will it become another arena for great power competition? The reality is that Greenland's future is in flux, and the decisions made by the US, Denmark, and NATO will be critical in determining whether it stays firmly within the Western sphere or falls under new competing influences. The Golden Dome, the missile defense system, and the Arctic security architecture all hinge on the actions taken in the coming years. The US must remain vigilant, and the world must pay attention to the unfolding drama in the high north. So what's next? Stay informed, stay engaged, because the decisions made in Greenland will impact not just the Arctic, but the entire world order. The future of global security is being written right now, and you have a front row seat to the action. If you found this analysis insightful, share this video and keep the conversation going. The more we understand the stakes, the better prepared we'll be for the challenges ahead. Subscribe for more deep dives into the critical geopolitical issues shaping our world,